At this moment, we'll split our 30 or so attendees into 5 groups of 6 people, and we'll show you to your team room. We'll introduce you to your facilitator, who will help you through the tasks, and point you at a link to the PowerPoint, a copy of this thing, you'll be able to use as reference for the session, and it's also where you can capture your thoughts, and you'll be able to download a copy to take away later. So the first task then, trigger moments. What is your reason for being here, and which roles do you think you'll need to engage to support you in solving the issues that you see, or meeting the aspirations that you have. So this page, if you can open up your PowerPoint, you should be able to find this slide, and all of you in the little groups that you're in should be able to put remarks on here. So if you can open it, then here are some suggestions for you. So drivers for change, what are they? Well, you might have drivers from a number of perspectives. There's a strategic perspective here, a governance perspective, and a delivery perspective. Delivery perspective could mean portfolio program project, it could mean product, it could mean business as usual activity. But the idea is here there are some pains, some issues, some aspirations that might resonate with you. For example, in the strategy space, one of the drivers might well be that your strategy is not communicated or cascaded, and that's a pain because you're not getting your strategic outcomes as you'd like them. So you might have some drivers for change which are related to poor strategy or poor communication or control of strategy. Alternatively, related in the governance space, maybe your organization isn't particularly great at making decisions and controlling how it operates. And for example, you might not have visibility of the methods for how you prioritize, and you may see work and objectives followed that you just don't understand the priority for. So maybe there are some drivers there from a governance perspective. From a delivery perspective, you may be suffering from other people politicking, people coming up with their own parochial goals and pursuing them, and taking the resource or airtime for you to deliver stuff that's strategically important. So those are just some examples. Please have a think in your groups what it is you'd like to take off this list as is, or put your own stuff on, or remove stuff, edit it, whatever you like. Have a little bash at that for a couple of minutes, see what you can come up with. Okay, you're clear in your mind as to what the drivers are for an initiative like this, but can you build a coalition for change? Who are your fellow stakeholders in this, who might have the same objectives as you, who might have conflicting objectives, who might have objectives that are unrelated but might be supportive? Who are those folks? Who are you going to have to persuade? And where perhaps is a sponsor for this, an executive level sponsor for this initiative likely to emerge from? Stakeholders, who are yours? I guess where you come from in the organisation will probably determine who these folks are and who are in your reach. But clearly, if we take those strategy, governance and delivery domains again, we might very easily be able to identify roles or people that in our organisation we think we're going to need to influence. So please have a look at these as examples, and in your group nail down who you think you'll need to access in these areas. And for a bonus mark, if you can highlight which ones would be responsible for such a change, who would be accountable for the outcomes of a change, who you need to consult and inform, that would be fantastic. Okay, approach to engagement. So far, we've discussed your drivers and explored the folks who may be protagonists or detractors or potential sponsors. But these solutions are complex. They're complex and they're sophisticated and they're integrated and they can be quite all-encompassing. They may not be easy to conceive or agree. So beyond understanding our stakeholders, we need to use models to capture what they really think and what our current state is, and to help us envision what our future might look like. Hence, when working with organisations, we use this idea of first steps to gain consensus on the pains and to imagineer the possible gains, and understand together what a vision for how this all might operate, how that might fit together and work. From there, we're ready to then effectively define, build, adopt and sustain any capabilities that are necessary. But we need to do that engagement first before we can move on and do anything. If we start building capabilities before we understand the need and the drivers, we'll just keep hitting roadblocks. So care needs to be taken through this first steps phase, and we shouldn't skip through it quickly. We need to understand where people are, build consensus, and we all need to realise that Rome wasn't built in a day. And if we need to scale the journey to present it as small steps for some, but others need to see the big picture before they'll do anything, then that's all good stuff. We need to do that. To hammer it home, we won't cover this within the session itself, but the essence of the big journey, again, just to reiterate, the solutions are potentially complex and not easy to conceive or agree. There are many perspectives we need to cope with, and each situation an organisation finds itself in is different. We need to understand our stakeholders and use models to help them imagine what the solution and what the future looks like. We need to speak to people, we need to engage them, and we need to use pictures and diagrams to help them envision what perhaps doesn't exist at the moment. Our approach to this is to use what we call a first steps engagement to build consensus, identify pains and possible gains, and get agreement to do something before we try and work out exactly what it is we're going to do. And once we have decided what we're going to do, it's inevitable that we'll need to fix information, need to fix our picture that we build our reality with, and fix the operation so that we can function and manage our affairs effectively. And that will enable us to solve matters for today, quick wins, and solve for tomorrow, where we can persuade people to go on a journey with us. And there'll be steps in that: discover the situation, build what's necessary, support adoption, and then sustain and support what's produced. So again, we won't present this in the session itself, but just a little elaboration and background for you. We talk about this first steps process. It involves workshopping to understand, so that people can understand what the big proposition is. Workshopping to understand our readiness within an organisation. What do we have that's good? What don't we have? What do we have that's bad? So where are we? Let's understand the station we're leaving from before we jump on the train. And we might then need to do further, more detailed discovery to understand what's happening. We need to envision with people so they can buy into the picture. Start to develop outline and richer business cases to justify any time and effort spent. and come up with a plan which shows what at least we're going to do in the next step. And in this stage, we might want some of our staff to become trained in this, so they have good knowledge and certified, so that we can believe that they know what they're talking about. The first steps process itself, then, some things that might be useful to think about. Firstly, we don't need to make this a fight. As soon as we start making a fight out of discovering where we are, we'll have antagonists, not protagonists. So let's try and avoid confronting. Let's tease out of our organisation where we are without having a fight. You may have heard this word nemawashi, working around the roots. So let's gently understand from people where they are, gently engage with them, remove any barriers, diminish anxiety and denial, and help people on board with it at the pace that they can tolerate. Let's build consensus. We won't build unanimity, and we're not going to avoid the need for leadership, but let's appreciate all of our stakeholder perspectives and focus on what we can do together. And if we need to compromise, then we do. And lastly, the most obvious thing in building our approach, we've got to realise Rome's not built in a day. We need to take steps, and we need to make sure that steps we take are solid, and they work, and they land, and they build success, and we can progress on a sensible way forwards. We won't cover this in this session, but I think it's worth sharing some thoughts around where we sit, or where our sponsor's going to come from, before we think about how much of this they're going to take on. For example, we can have sponsors who are specific, have specific pains that they want to solve using some of the big stuff. For example, we might have a PMO that wants to get a hold of portfolio, program and project management, and maybe even start getting a picture for prioritization and resource allocation. So that's a partial solution, but it might be a good sponsor to introduce us to the integrated governance approach. We might have a technology sponsor. So we have CIOs who are desperate to help us leverage AI and modern technology, and maybe who want to get us working more efficiently and effectively together. So a sponsor may all come from the CIO's office as an effectiveness and efficiency message. The another approach is that maybe a finance director wants to get a grip of an investment and understand how exactly investment's happening, and put process around that. So the connection of strategy to delivery, and the balance of resources and cost versus value. That's a partial solution that we might have. But that might also come from quite a top-down perspective, which takes us on to a CEO or a COO who has a vision for the organisation, and has not to this date been satisfied with the way that their organisation is able to cascade and deliver strategy, or balance its workloads between strategic change, product creation, as well as keeping the lights on. So there are various possible sponsors, various directions from which a big solution might come. So we need to understand where we are and who we need to influence. Right, task 2, build consensus and commitment. So this session is about helping attendees start a table and start initial conversations with fellow protagonists and sponsors to enable to get the big ball rolling. We will work with our groups and give half of them one challenge, half of them another, basically just using 2 different tools that we maybe can see how they get on with. Half of the attendees will use what we call a canvas to gather their pains in a structured way, and we'll translate those in the next session onto a solution canvas. That's accessible. You can have a look at it in the big services taxonomy, and we'll use the strategy delivery example as the basis for our exercise. The other half of the attendees will encourage you to open the big readiness model. It will be embedded. It is embedded in this PowerPoint, so you'll be able to open it and just have a play with it. What's embedded in this PowerPoint is a simplified, cut down version to make it easy for you. Essentially, we try and capture and structure your pains in a way that we can easily collate them and translate them into answers. Please remember, this is an exercise. There's a short burst of time to do it in. You're not going to be able to complete the whole thing. It's all about getting you familiar with the technique and the tool. And if you're capturing this information, you might also want to discuss maybe which of the pains that you're addressing you'd want to address now, next, or later. Okay, step one, we might want to map out our high-level perception of our potential sponsors, protagonists, and detractors. We might want to just basically, for each of those roles, try to grasp or anticipate what we think their pains and their issues are, and what it is that they'd like to achieve. Let's do that at a high level, just to make sure that we've got a good understanding of our potential audience. Having perhaps thought about our stakeholders and maybe even gently chatted to them about their pains and expected gains, and worked around the roots using this Nemawashi style, let's try and capture that and play it back and develop it further. Method one then is to use a canvas. We've created a canvas here. This one's already filled in. You'll find this in the services taxonomy as an example. Basically, we've got one of the themes that's come out of conversing with our stakeholders is that they're not happy with strategy delivery. So what we've done is try and break down strategy delivery into some areas that we can explore further. And the framework we've used is clarity, communication, delegation, control, enablement, agility, and integration. So these are areas that we can dig into around strategy delivery. This is an approach you could take with any theme and break it down into any set of headings like this. The idea is that we're trying to understand current state. So here is some sample information you might want to edit and tweak. Please have a think about this perspective strategy delivery, and fill out what you like, remove the ones you don't want, edit or add as you see fit. Spend a few minutes, just do a little brainstorm. Or if you're feeling brave, maybe just create a copy of this, and instead of doing this perspective strategy delivery, I don't know, do it for resource management or something. But the idea is we use these perspectives. We can engage people with them. We can gather perspectives and take it from there. So this page in the presentation has in it an embedded object, which is the big readiness model. What you'll be able to do is right click on it and open it. When you do right click on it, be careful that you select worksheet object and open, and it should open up an Excel instance on your PC, and then you'll be able to do all that you'd like to do with it on your PC. Now this is given to a group, so I think you'll only be able to edit it one at a time. So one of your group will need to be the the editor, maybe your facilitator does this, but you'll all be able to open it and have a look at it at another time. So once we've opened up the sheet, you'll be taken to a whole list of questions. So basically on the left hand side of the page there, those are the big components: organization, governance, accountability. There's a few in here. What we've given in this example is well, a few questions from the readiness model just for you to play with. And against each area then we've got the principle. So principle number 1 there: strategy is necessary to achieve purpose, with a description. It's accepted that viable strategy and strategic plan are necessary to enable an organization to achieve its purpose. And do you believe organizationally that you believe that's true? So there are some options there for each question. They're quite generic, but they're definitely usable. So for example, is there no example of this principle being met in your organization? Do you sometimes meet the principle but don't do it very well? Do you partially meet the objective, but when you do it, you're quite good at it? Do you fully meet the objective, but you don't do it very well? Or do you fully meet it very well? So there are some options there to help you understand how well your organization supports that principle. Now that might be very high level and almost impossible. So in fact, if you scroll along to the right a little bit, you'll start to see some good looks like, bad looks like questions. And there's a column there for the sub area that you might have seen within the canvases. So there are questions around clarity, communication, delegation, and so on and so forth. And you'll be able to answer the questions against the good looks like statement. So the organization has a clear mission and purpose that drives a vision picture of the organization state compared to the organization future state compared to the current state. No. We have something, but it's not very good. We have something, and what we do have is good. We have something we do that, but it's not done very well, or we do have it and it's done well. So those were the questions. So those are quite simplistic. If you want to put comments down, there's a column there to put comments in. So have a go, and we'll see where you get to. And just to let you know, as you start filling those things out, as you start giving the answers, there's a front page and a summary. The summary will give you like a score, a simplistic scoring based on how well you do in each area. So have a crack at that and see how you get on. So as we work with stakeholders and use these canvases or these readiness models to capture viewpoints from individuals or collections of people, we need to summarize it, analyze it, and play it back. So how might we do that? As you can imagine, there's a bit of analysis required and a bit of imagination to present and summarize and make sense of all the stuff that you get. But here's one way to do it. And we've used, in this example, the components-based approach. So we've surmised out of all of the inputs we've had the issues we've heard related to organization. So one here, translation of business strategy into operating business plans is not happening. There's a linkage to IT strategy, but not through the business units. So that's an issue. It's an organization issue with strategy connection. I'll just pick off another one. So around governance, our change portfolio, well, we're not managing the change portfolio. It's ad hoc and ineffective, and we don't have a resource management process that ensures it can happen. And it's not clear, it wasn't clear to me, if change or benefit achievement is part of individual director governance. So when programs are delivering, do directorates properly manage change and manage benefit. There are a whole bunch of these more. I won't go into them in this session, but you get the idea. That we've used the big component structure, we've summarized what's happening, and hopefully we can use an image like this to communicate what our finding is. The last task then is to have a go at using some of the tools for presenting a vision and roadmap within the big framework. To complete this task, it's just too much to do. There's very little time to do this. But please don't think this is going to get nailed. Just get familiar with the tools. We'll focus on vision. Vision, creating a picture, mental picture we can all coalesce around. We'll give stakeholders a good, warm, fluffy feeling as to what's being suggested and what solution components we'll need to bolt together to make that vision with. As I say, we'll only be able to do this simplistic. We'll again split the groups into two. One group will encourage you to use a text-based and a canvas-based approach to describing what you need to build. And clearly there's some interpretation between what you said the problem is and what you need to build. So accepted that's going to be tough. And the other group will use a component diagram like the one we used in the example of what the issues are. We'll basically start using that to describe what the answers are at a high level in this session. So please have a go in your groups and see how you go. So what do the answers look like? What are we going to need to build and operate? Well, here's one way to put it back, and it's analogous. It works with the example status capture we did a little while ago. Essentially, what we've got is the same diagram structure, and instead of this time stating what the problem is, we say what the solution is. So, for example, the issues we found, we collated them against the organisation heading, and the suggestion, the response here to the problems we raised earlier is that we need a quarterly strategy review process driven from progressing operating plans and including outcome progress from the change initiatives that we have. Just picking up another one here, one of the governance drivers have led the conclusion here to initiate a change portfolio, formalise prioritisation of business as usual and change to enable effective resource management, and we include adoption and benefit review in monthly directorate governance so that they can be have oversight of change and benefit realisation. There's a whole load more examples here, and please be my guest to edit this down to your own example and see how you get on. Once we've understood our stakeholders, once we know what our drivers are, once we've engaged with people a little bit about their perspective of pain and their expectation of possible gain, and started to envision at a high level what it is we think we want, we're going to have to turn that into things that we can make, build and operate. And this is where the big framework kicks in, because it gives us the building blocks we can plug together, gives us a language set to describe things with. And this is the big solution toolkit, if you like. These are the building blocks. We talk about things like strategy information model, which is a complete coherent information set that helps you get from your purpose to vision to strategy, objectives and everything else that follows. An operating model, which is a way of working to keep that strategic picture up to date and current and reflecting reality. The big components talk about what we need to build to operate delivery of that. So a clear organisation structure, governance framework that understands the government governance breakdown, the accountability map, which cascades objectives to accountable people to allow them to execute against it. To control that, we need information and data. So we need structures, and we need ways of gathering data, presenting it, and sourcing it in the first place. To make it run, we need business support to make the cadence happen and to assist people do the right things the right way. Assurance to help us more do the right things the right way. And of course, leadership to drive the bus and fund the origination of this, and then to oversee and sponsor the ongoing operation. Those are high-level building blocks, but we'll need to put it together with smaller building blocks, process definitions for things like how for benefits management, change, performance management, portfolio program, project, etc. We'll need to make sure all that existing stuff is fit for purpose. Likewise, the tools we have for planning, for risk management, for all those sort of things are fit for purpose and can be plugged together, and perhaps even some new ones that we don't have right now, something for objectives and key results perhaps. These are all the building blocks that we can stipulate and draw together based on the vision and the expectation we have for our new delivery scenario. There's more to big than just having that diagram. Within the big framework, there's a catalogue of deliverables. There's a list of example deliverables, and you'll be able to access those and literally use them to define your own deliverables with. Either use them as they are, edit them, be inspired to create different ones, whatever it is you want to do. There's a library of stuff there. You won't be able to use it all on the fly in this session, but that's where that content is when you want to use it. So how are we going to decide what we're going to need to build? Well, step one, I guess, is to work out what our organisational scope is. This is determined by the sponsor. We've chatted about that sooner. So are we helping our business units in our HR, finance, marketing? Are we helping those business units in understand their objectives and cascade them and manage that? Are we helping our value generation teams, our product groups, to define and manage the value chains that we have in our business? Or are we really focused on just strategic change with our change portfolios? Or is it all the above? So which is it? We need to know that. Once we know what our scope is that way, then we need to understand what we need to build to operate governance and deliver strategy across those. We need to know what we need to build. So what we've got here in the session is an opportunity to look back at the pains we've identified, to look at the readiness model as to what the issues are there, to look back at the canvas as to what our pains have been, and start to think which of these building blocks we're going to need. So the challenge in this session is to have a look through this and cross out the ones you don't think you need, add in the ones you think you will, and just see what you can do in a few minutes just to get familiar with this canvas and see what you can produce. Where next? We know why we're looking to do something. We understand who our stakeholders are. We've anticipated their pains and gains. We've run some sessions to gather out of people what their pains and expectations are. We've thought through what the solution might look like at a high level. We've thought about the building blocks we're going to need to build. How do we take that forwards? Just to reiterate a little bit, we've already explained that the journey scale and scope is dependent on who the sponsor is, where they sit in the organisation, and which business areas they want to be covered, as much as the the complexity of what the solution is. So are we working for a sponsor who's an executive that wants a comprehensive vision driven through the organization? Are we supporting a senior manager that wants to apply big concepts to strategy delivery in their area? Or are we looking to exploit a technology innovation and to enable the organization to use the big concepts if they wish in a tactical way? So our roadmap is going to be a function of all those things, and we'll need creativity to imagine what it looks like. We can't do that in this session, but we can certainly exemplify how it might appear. In this session, we can't talk about exact scope too much, but what we can do is explain the big life cycle. The big life cycle gives us a journey, an example journey through the whole big process, from first steps through to ongoing sustainment in tranche after tranche of capability. So it doesn't matter how the scope's broken down, how it's delivered. The life cycle's the same, but we need a life cycle to be able to communicate with, so we can explain what it is and all talk about the same things without ambiguity. We've already talked about first steps and basically given examples for how to do the first step stuff, so I won't go into that further. But following stages would follow. We've offered this description of discovery, where we go into a bit more detail as to what the exact organization situation is, to understand the business scenario, the technology scenario, to then from that understanding elaborate and beef up the vision a little bit, to develop the roadmap more specifically than in just playing around in first steps, to build a business case, because we're going to need funding, we're going to need to show benefits and value, and our approach for how we do it, whether we do we build narrow and broad and shallow, a low capability that we take to the masses, or narrow and deep, where we take one area, make it work well, and then rinse and repeat that in different areas. We need to. That's what discovery is all about. Build, we make all the enablers. So build the governance framework, initiate business support, create the technology platforms, build the underlying fundamentals, which you can then deliver more and more. During adopt, where we take the capability out to the business units that we're looking to on board with this, and we help them adapt and adopt it and change how they work and then fit with the governance framework. There are some work streams that are underpinning here. There are business change, there are technology necessities, and there's data integration. So there's some fundamentals that will be growing along the way. And sustain, having conceived, designed and built something, and in an iterative way perhaps, we need to make sure that it's growing and still works and remains relevant for the organization. We mustn't forget that piece. So this is the big life cycle in a nutshell. This diagram tries to put it all onto one page. On the left hand side of the page, in early engagement, we've got first steps and discovery activity, trying to engage with our audience and build out the reason why. Building components, we've then got maybe some training activity, we've got build, adopt and sustain and operate, and our culture change, where we're doing adopt and sustain. We've identified some enablers, some other building blocks, but those will be specific to each business area and each organization. So have a look, see what you think.